Greetings and welcome back to Doctor Who Revisited, my ongoing series where I go through every single episode of Doctor Who from 1963 all the way up to 2022 and review them. And today we are going to talk about the Savages. Oh boy, I apologize and I promise this is the last time I'm going to do this for a while, but it's not an episode I revisit very fondly. Once again, it is a very Steven Taylor heavy episode, and once again, I get it, I understand. William Hartnell's health situation was getting worse by the day, and they had to give William Hartnell less and less screen time, to the point where for about 2 of the 4 episodes of the serial, he's kind of not really there, or rather sleeping half the time. But I get it, they wrote it into the story so it makes sense. It feels organic. Obviously, until then, later you do some research and realize that the reason that the Doctor was mostly absent for the majority of that serial is because he was sick. But whatever. Okay, so this episode chooses to focus on Dodo and Steven, 2 of my least favorite companion companion crew, in a way, combination. I don't know. I do not like these characters, but thankfully, we won't have to talk about either one of them for very long. But overall, as far as the story itself goes, I think it's an okay story. The execution may have not have been the best, but I think it's very relevant to today. I like the whole class system comparison of, like, the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. You know, that whole story element of that. As far as that, it's fine. It's an okay. It's a good topic to tackle. Execution-wise, you know, it's that you can argue the validity of that, but like, that's really neither here nor there. And again, this would have been so much easier to talk about if all 4 of the episodes of the serial weren't missing, BBC. And oh my goodness, it only gets worse from here. But for these 4 episodes, of the little bit that I can actually make out, a little bit that I can actually see in the episode, because we're kind of in luck that this episode actually has a lot of clips that survived from it somehow, through some way. So there is some parts of the episode that you can actually see stuff happening, and it's not just a static image with some dialogue on the bottom telling you what's happening. So of the little bit of the episode that I can make out, it's kind of hard to judge the performances of the actors beyond, you know, just the voice. Because as far as voice goes, it's good. And partially the problem is that the audio isn't really great, because again, it's a missing episode. The audios don't generally tend to be really good in these missing episodes, but the audio is kind of all you have, so there really isn't that much to go off of. But again, the performances are fine, and again, the people playing the actual the savages, in a way, the people living in the caves and in the wilderness, they're good. I really liked their characterizations. Hated the guards, but I mean, you're kind of supposed to hate the guards because of how they're being portrayed and how they're being characterized. As far as that, in the story, it makes sense. You hate them because you're supposed to hate them, and you despise the people living in the city, the sort of enlightened people, as they like to call themselves. But really, if you follow the themes of the episode itself, who's really the savages in the story, and who's really, you know, who are really the good guys and who are really the bad guys, it's one of those stories where there is no good guy, there is no bad guy, there's just people with agendas. And it turns out that the people living in the cities who think themselves to be the superior are actually just, you know, lowlifes living off of the lives of someone else. And really, there isn't much to talk about this episode. I really do not like it at all. And it's definitely one of those episodes that I wish I could skip. But, I mean, like I said, it does have some relevance to modern society, the class system. There's some political commentary that they were trying to do in the 60s. And apparently nobody listened because we're still living in this kind of class-based world of, the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. But yeah, and even for people who think that modern Doctor Who is too political, take a look at some of these episodes from the 60s and then look me in the eye and say that again. But overall, the design of the city looks really good. The set design is really, really outstanding. And not much else to say about that. I mean, it's a pretty generic sci-fi story in and of itself, with the hint of the political commentary that I mentioned earlier. I love how they kind of interwove that concept that the Doctor couldn't do much of anything, and that's how they explained all the longer breaks that they gave William Hartnell at the time. Just again, I wish he had a better companion team to work with, to do all the heavy lifting as far as the acting goes. At the end, the Doctor decides that Steven needs to stay behind and look after the people as a sort of neutral observer and to sort of moderate the peace between these two people. Why Steven? Like, seriously, Doctor? I love William Hartnell's Doctor. I love the first Doctor. Exactly what is it about Steven Taylor's character that made you feel like he's the right man for the job? Like, I don't know the guy can tie his own shoes, let alone moderate peace between two separate races. Like, seriously, why? Why would Steven? But who cares? At least it gets Steven out of the TARDIS. That's really all I care about. At least this is how Steven left the TARDIS. And I'm fine with that. Because the less Steven Taylor, the better. I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry about this. I really hope to God Peter Purves isn't watching this series right now. Because the guy's contributions to Doctor Who far outweigh the character of Steven Taylor. I mean, he's still around. And he's still doing Doctor Who related stuff today. And I really hope he doesn't see me talking about his character like that. But I'll say this, I loved him much better as Morton Dill than I felt about him as Steven Taylor. I'll say that I don't dislike Peter Purves, and I forgot to mention this in the previous episode, I loved his singing voice in The Gunfighters. The guy's talented. He's talented as hell. Just, the character that he was playing, not the best, and not my favorite. Now, that's really all I can say about it. What else can I say? Oh, yeah. So the change up to just no longer are these individual names to each episode of a serial. We're now starting the whole episode 1, episode 2, episode 3, and so on and so forth. I think right up until John Pertwee's final season, where they gave him the new intro, where they started changing it from episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 to part 1, part 2, part 3, and that's how it went on all the way up to the show's cancellation in 89. And again, if I remember this correctly, but yeah, so that clearly was an Ines Floyd decision of the producer / showrunner that I mentioned earlier. I think, he had 2 serials, The Celestial Toymaker and The Gunfighters, under his belt when he made that, that still had the individual names for each episode. And from the Savages onward, it just went on completely to no individual names, just episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. And I get it. I mean, a lot of the times, when they had these individual names for the serials, you can kind of tell that that they didn't really know what to name it, and they were just searching frantically for a creative name that sounds ominous and scary, and just slap it onto one of the parts, whether or not it actually fit the story. So I actually prefer this to just have a serial name and just an episode name, attach an episode name to it, and it only gets better next season when they introduce a brand new intro, so they actually have the space to show the name of the episode, the name of the writer/writers, and the number of the episode. I like that. And that's really how they made the Doctor Who intros go all the way up to 89 when the show was cancelled. But yeah, that's a good positive thing I can say about the episode, is it introduced that. And at the end of the fourth episode, or rather the final episode of the of each serial, they continued with the tradition of the next week, blah blah blah, you know. But other than that, really not much else to say about this episode. Honestly, I think I talked about this episode way longer than I intended to, and way longer than this episode even deserves. So I'm just gonna, shut off this review and move on to a review for an episode I much prefer spending time to talk about, but that is a story for another time. My sonic screwdriver still continues to make noise. So
that came out wrong.
So, thank you for watching. Please let me know in the comments if you actually find something likable in this episode, and what your thoughts on Steven Taylor as a companion are. Because I don't think he ever resurfaced in Doctor Who, on television at least. He's done a lot of, Peter Purves did a lot of Big Finish and audio book narrations. I did say he contributed a lot to Doctor Who beyond the character of Steven Taylor, but let me know what you thought about his character, and if you actually find something likable about him. So that's me saying goodbye to you. And, yeah, bye. Hi there. Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.